is our exhibition in our 25th year. So we have had this long history of looking at what it is to be a human being and identifying the key forces that really have a huge impact on our lives. And sleep is how we spend 1/3 on average of our entire lives. And I think that we don't reflect enough on that impact. Sometimes we know, oh, we slept really well, or we didn't, we tossed and we turned, but rarely do we really understand what the function of sleep is in our lives. So because the science has gotten better than ever, we're including all the latest science in understanding what happens when we're asleep, but also more of the magical aspects, the mysterious aspects that are so positive and that I hope will be of great help to everyone out there. So we have today with us members of the press, we have our incredible fan club members, and we have our docents. And I just wanted to say, we recently and are still feeling so much the ache of losing a wonderful docent who for over 16 years faithfully gave a 2 o'clock tour on Saturday, Alvin Schenk of blessed memory. So we called on a dear friend, Arianna Huffington, who 20 years ago came to visit us and speak with Dame Anita Roddick, who has also passed, as well as B. Gaddy, the great homeless advocate, also of blessed memory. And Arianna was a lot like me in that we are both workaholics, but Arianna collapsed from lack of sleep. And that inspired her to do all the research that you're about to hear. And thank God she did. So we've always featured key books and information as works of art. And it's right in the show. So if we could please play the Arianna interview. Mm-hmm. Is it ready? You know, firstly, I wanted to introduce you to everybody who will be watching this in conjunction with the launch of our Science and Mystery of Sleep show.
I love that. It's so great that you are bringing both together, only you.
Oh, well, thank you. We have to say we met, you were one of the all-time most luminous speakers back almost, I think, 20 years ago, along with Dame Anita Roddick and our local hero. Her name was B. Gaddy, who was a champion for the homeless. And you spoke at our sleepover party, remember that?
I remember extremely well.
Along with Agape, too.
Along with Agape, the goddesses.
Exactly, exactly. Well, today I wanted to first just introduce you by saying that when you had your own sleep crisis,
yes,
you, true to your visionary nature, went to find the solution and to understand sleep and its impact on yourself. But you never stop there. You always take the lessons that come your way in life and share them for the benefit of humanity.
Well, you do the same.
Thank you. And your book, The Sleep Revolution, for me is just one-stop shopping for so many people. So with that, I wanted to ask you if you could share, just if you had only a little time with people, what would you want them to understand most about sleep?
Well, I love the fact that you are bringing together the science and the mystery of sleep, because both are true. And first of all, actually, I want them to understand the science of sleep. That's why in my book I have 50 pages of that, because I want them to realize that sleep is not optional. According to all the science that we have from multiple scientific sleep centers, sleep is the only time that we can clean up our brains from the toxins that accumulate during the day. And so once people recognize that, they need to know that unless they have a genetic mutation, about 1 to 1.5% of the population has a genetic mutation and they don't need a lot of sleep. The rest of us, the vast majority, need 7 to 9 hours. And the mystery of sleep is there for all of us once we acknowledge its importance and give into it.
I wanted to ask you, in speaking of mystery, in your intuitive life, because I think most geniuses really have a strong sense of intuition. They perceive things that the rest of us don't easily. And I wanted to ask you, did you ever have a precognitive dream, a dream that actually came true?
What I have had is a recurring dream that has been sort of very central to my life. And that recurring dream is that I'm on a train going home to God. Bear with me. You could think of it as going home, whatever resonates with you. And my life is scenery. Some of it is beautiful scenery, other is ugly scenery, but the train moves on. And pain comes when I cling to the scenery, whether it's joyful or painful. And for me, that's kind of been an incredible summing up of what life is, that life is in movement and it's progressive and change is inevitable. And when I have that dream again and again, it kind of reaffirms that in my life. And it reminds me really of my favorite quote by Rumi, that live life as though it's all rigged in your favor.
Oh, we put on the largest Rumi festival ever put on in the United States with almost new money. And it was just an astonishment. And then we dedicated a year to him. In an exhibition called All Faiths Beautiful, From Atheism to Zoroastrianism, Respect for Diversity of Belief. And we used his poetry everywhere.
I love that.
I have 2 more important sleep questions to ask you. And again, I can't say enough about your book, The Sleep Revolution. It's in plain language. The science is very accessible, but your own story. I'm a workaholic as well. I've had 1 vacation in 25 years. And I thought that because your lack of sleep became such a crisis, that your message, and I can see what it's doing for you, is just so important. I wanted to find out, because many inventors and composers and people who get stuck on a business problem, a personal problem, find if they go to sleep after doing their best to figure out the solution with their conscious mind, that they will wake up with an insight they can, that's so dead on. Have you had that experience?
Yes, many times. Steinbeck actually said that the committee of sleep solves problems at night that seemed insoluble during the day. For me, one of the ways this works is by cleaning up my hard drive of my brain. Often what gets in the way of my creativity or my intuition are all the things that we're all dealing with in our lives, relationship friction, little trivial problems, little emotional upsets. So I find that during sleep, these things are cleared out. So then I'm left with a space from which to create. And it's more like that Marie Kondoing of my emotional and mental life, so that I can be in that space from which creativity flourishes.
Yes. Well, you obviously practice that very, very much. And then finally, did you ever get a specific creative inspiration? Even the term sleep revolution, how do ideas come to you?
Oh, yes. I mean, really, all the time. I find that I get both creative inspirations about books, about what we're doing with my company now, Thrive Global, but also I get like warnings.
Interesting.
You know, as an entrepreneur, the biggest mistake we can make is hiring mistakes.
Yes.
So often in my dreams, if I'm in the process of deciding whether to hire or not hire somebody, my dream will bring up to the surface a red flag, something in my conversation with that person that could become a problem that my conscious mind may have missed, but the unconscious mind got it.
Wow.
And it surfaces that to me in a dream that helps me make a better decision. So I love the fact that you're focusing on how productive sleep is, because we're living in a culture that for decades has considered sleep a waste of time. I mean, you snooze, you lose, we say, or I'll sleep when I'm dead. So we have a lot of culture shifting to do. And by emphasizing the productive nature of sleep, you're actually going to make a lot of converts, for which I'm very grateful, because I will always be a sleep evangelist.
Oh, yeah. I had the privilege of interviewing Dr. George Church, you know, the famous kind of genius virologist, and who's a lifelong narcoleptic. And he, as well as a local talented artist named Landis Expandis, shares where he gets his music and his art from, all sleep-oriented. So,
I love that.
Well, you are amazing. I cannot wait to see you. And I hope Agape will come with you again. This exhibition will be up for 2 solid years. And it is one-stop shopping, particularly with the cherry on top of your amazing book, and how generous you have been to share something so personal, plus your solutions, so that everybody is helped. With all my heart.
Thank you so much. With all my heart to you. Thank you, thank you. And we'll definitely be there before the exhibition is over.
I hope you enjoyed that. There's another book, and you can watch his talk on YouTube by Matt Walker, Why We Sleep. He's a scientist who's been studying this for a long time. He's at Stanford. But he said, get this, that men who sleep habitually 5 hours or less a night tend to have very small testicles. So our hormones, whether we're male or female, it can disrupt women's hormones too if we have very poor sleep. And when we dream, that's when protein synthesis happens in our body more than any other time when we're in REM. So there are very specific, beautifully designed reasons for sleep. Let's go this way. Now I'm going to give you all a big glass of milk of this, but I'm not selling you or giving away the cow, because we're about 95% ready to open this Friday with the show. But the first image I wanted people to see was from our dear friend Alex Gray. It's his portrait called Dying. Well, why would you have dying in a show about sleep? And there's a Talmudic quote that said, "Sleep is 1/60th of death." And I just thought it was such an amazing. So what are we as human beings? We've studied this before. We are human beings having a spiritual experience, or are we spiritual beings having a human experience? Someone said we're spirit walking in a corpse. I don't know about that, but it's just a very magnificent work of art. And right next to that, I put this research on daylight saving time. Now, who knew that daylight saving time that came about, it was first proposed by Benjamin Franklin as a joke. He really, a humorous essay. And, you know, he said, this is how we can save on candle wax. And then it was thought, oh, it's good for the farmers, etc. But what happens when a whole population loses an hour of sleep? Increased incidence of heart attacks, more car accidents, more epileptic seizures. so many things happen. So there is a big movement in 2021 in Europe to eliminate daylight saving time. There was something put forth this past year to do something. Florida wanted the Sunshine Protection Act to make daylight savings time permanent. But that would mean that children living in the northern part of the United States would have to catch the bus in total darkness for an extra even hour, and it would be so disruptive. So after looking at all of the wonderful research, we're saying the most important thing would be to get rid of daylight saving time in its entirety, as the Europeans have concluded. Then we have a piece in praise of naps. And so much so did they find creative people more productive if they could just take a nap. Much like the wisdom of people who do siesta in very warm climates, that many companies, including Google, Facebook, and Zappos, have installed sleeping pods for their employees to go take a nap, because they find that they get that they lower their chance of having a heart attack between 30 and 48%. That's amazing, right? As well as that they just, wake up with more presence, more, ability to be fully engaged in their work life as well. I like this quote from Barbara Jordan. Think what a better world it would be if we all, the whole world, had cookies and milk about 3 o'clock every afternoon and then lay down on our blankets for a nap. She must have been a terrific congressperson. Here we have a work by Deborah Berger. And then after looking at all the different, remedies for how to have a better sleep experience from many different sources and cultures, I tried to put them in plain language. We have 1 through 18, a recipe for good sleep. And I really hope that people of all ages who come through here will indeed go away with something they can use to improve their lives for the rest of their lives. We know that teenagers, because of the hormonal changes, their body clocks change as well. And they tend to want to, not because they're being defiant or surly, want to stay up later, but they need to sleep longer in the morning. And of course, we find the schools, when they're triaging school buses, that what happens is that often the older kids have to take the earliest bus. And that's actually terrible. They know that when kids have to, particularly teens, start too early, that their test scores go down. And conversely, when they can start later, that they do much better. Here is another work by the genius Alex Gray. It's called Insomnia. And we began our show actually with a quote from Shakespeare, who was an insomniac. And, for anybody who has experienced that torture, it is torture. Up here we have our quote, "Sleep is the best meditation," by the Dalai Lama. And then, how many of you remember our What Makes Us Smile show? That was, such a delight. I was listening to National Public Radio while I was cooking it up, and I heard Dr. Robert Provine, this genius who wrote a book called The Science of Laughter. And I thought, how can I get hold of him? And it turned out he lived 20 minutes away in Columbia, Maryland. But not only was Dr. Robert Provine an expert in the science of laughter, he studied human yawn phenomena. You know that bit when somebody you see yawns really big and it makes you yawn, there's that mimicry that happens. Actually, apes will do that too, as well as dogs. Sometimes they will mimic that yawning, that full gap experience. And unfortunately, I so look forward to working with Bob. And this is a wonderful picture of Robert Provine, who taught at UNBC, yawning, courtesy of his fabulous wife, Helen Wims, and a wonderful photographer, Tim Ford. So we talk about what is really happening when we yawn, and that's here too. This is a work I pursued for so long by a young Italian man. I don't know if you can back up a little bit, dear Helen, and see how you can see these large heads over top looking in on the sleeping figure. But when you're right in front of it, they totally disappear. This is Alessandro Sciordo's work. And we talk about the role of sleepwalking, of dreams, and the other portion of that Talmudic quote that sleep is 1/60th of death is that dreams are 1/60th of prophecy. And I'd just like to ask anybody out there the same question I asked to Arianna Huffington. Have you ever had a dream, particularly if you don't think of yourself as a very psychic person, but that later absolutely came true? I would love to see if our members can send in their stories. So here we have in our permanent collection, and we've had to watch funds so much, like all museums, but we're going into our 25th year. And because we were closed for 6 months due to COVID, and then a city flood, a breakage of a pipe that caused enormous damage to our basement, which we've now repaired. No art was hurt, but it delayed our opening by 5 weeks. We had in our permanent collection these 3-bedroom sets. And one we had never shown. I'll get to that in a minute. And I determined that we had to show it because I don't like seeing things just stay in storage for so long. So this is a delight. This is a Romanian-born woman who met a handsome GI and came over, married him. He was in diplomatic work and was the toast of the town in Washington. She was quite wild in her own creativity. She was very good friends with Olga Harshorn, the renowned art collector. But in addition, she was good friends with one of our best, most faithful volunteers as well as members, Abigail Greenway Adams, and then Vivian Lassman, who really gifted us this work. And she would have these big dinner parties in DC where she would make the women of all ages come and request that they go bare-breasted at the dinner table of their banquets. I would not have gone, but she was that kind of, fierce, creative, fun-loving person. And I find her work just amazing. Over here, we have juxtaposed to kind of be in her kind of feisty spirit. We have her Carpathian ancestor. And when the lights are correct on it, you'll see these neon glowing eyes that she put in of the Carpathian ancestor. And when I was a little girl, I got to meet comedian Phyllis Diller. And she has a great quote. She says, up here, never go to bed mad, stay up and fight. And then down here, we have Eleanor Roosevelt, such a brilliant woman. She said, I once had a rose named after me, and I was flattered, but I was not pleased to read the description in the catalog. No good in bed, but fine up against the wall. So we put that in here. And then we have a softer work over Nosh Chris's apartment, where she blew the glass herself. She formed these molds, etc., of all her figures. She could do anything. It just flowed from her. Again, totally self-taught. And we have that beautiful excerpt from Peter Pan. You know that place between sleep and awake, the place where you can still remember dreaming? That's where I'll always love you. That's where I'll be waiting. And that was from Peter Pan. You get a little bit, we haven't put up our bios yet, but you see Nosh Chris, even as an elderly lady, surrounded by friends as well as her artwork. Come around here. Regina DeLuise is a wonderful teacher at Micah, and she had a dear friend named Adrian Killard, a beautiful young man who in the early days of AIDS, when no one knew how it was transmitted, was really shunned from going to church services, which he loved. And what he did in that time of extreme loneliness, to have a fatal illness. And we all, I think, can relate with COVID and how communicable it is. He took his New York City home and he went back to his roots as an altar boy, and he created his own sacred space in his bedroom. And this has been for all of our staff, I think, one of the most moving installations. All of us, and we encourage kids too, particularly during COVID, you can begin curating. You can curate the way you dress, wear your hair, all of that. But if you have tolerant parents, we would like everyone to be thinking about taking responsibility for their own room and how it nurtures you and how it aids your sleep, how it comforts you. We chose to juxtapose here a quote by the Romantics: "I hear the secrets that you keep when you're talking in your sleep." So that is the great Adrian Quillard, and we had another people who loved his work. Let me get the correct names. Antonio Lasicki and William DeVita were kind enough to lend this screen, which is double-faced, that was in, you see the St. Francis, all of these images of nurturing and kindness to all, transcendent love. I think it's called agape love, just like in Greek, just like Arianna's sister. And when we turn around here, you'll see on the backside, aren't these marvelous birds and sun that he carved? It's such a great technique. I wish I had known Adrian Quillard. I would have loved to have been his friend and just known him. And then, okay, this is work by Sam the Dot Man, Sam McMillan. And he was such like so many of our visionary artists, he didn't begin to really make his art till he was late in life, after 60 years old. Very typical visionary artist for whatever reason, and started to put dots everywhere. And so we have this bedroom set, which we had never shown before. And it's really the gift of Eleanor and Ron Gross. And I had known their son-in-law, and we were so pleased to accept this. And I said, oh, I really want to show this work. Sam had a wonderful way of being in this world, a creative, loving way. He said, if we all hold hands, we can't fight. So we put that as a credo over the bed. And while you were right there, dear Helen, I showed the Woody Long and piece. And we haven't painted out all the clips on the artwork yet, but there's children jumping on the bed and just having a ball. We put that in with his work. Now, let's go over here. And I wonder if you can imagine what this is. Some of you will know. And then what these two things are. These are pillows. These are pillows. These are opium pillows from China, and they would rest their head there. And, you know, this modern idea of pillows with soft things is rather new. And in Africa, in Ethiopia, there are many versions of these to keep the insects from coming in, crawling up into the ears. They elevated their heads. You see this also in ancient Egypt as well. But this one is considered from a hunter tribe from Ethiopia. And that's the headrest or pillow that they had. And we'll get over here. Oh, look at this wonderful picture that was donated to us from Sam the Dot Man. Wonderful woman took that, Kim. And then we'll go over here. Greg Carter, who's been so generous to our museum, donated this work by Andrea Badami. And it's, you know, out of perspective of whatever, but we love that again, of kind of the spirits all around the sleeping baby. And then we have another wonderful piece piece here is a courtesy of John Ground, or Johnny Ground, a major collector from Pennsylvania. And it's so detailed, this cradle. And in between, again, this will be ready by Sunday. We have something like, if you boast that you sleep like a baby, you probably never had one, you know? And so it's always this mixture of humor or real take-home information. And one of the things, you know, so many of our security people, they work other jobs as well. And particularly during COVID, so many people work multiple jobs. But it's very important that we realize that the World Health Organization has identified night shift work as a probable carcinogen. The data is sadly very, very strong on that. So we have to use what we learn to be smarter about when we schedule school, particularly for teenagers, how we treat people in the workforce, etc. But I'm hoping that you'll come, you'll think about your own bedroom and making it a real nourishing place for you, a retreat, but you'll learn from the science that has been done on what is happening in your brain and your body, etc. When you sleep. So you will be less antagonistic, perhaps, towards sleep or feeling guilty about how much. You can sleep too much, that is true, but they now, you know, rank sleep as more important to our well-being than is even diet and exercise. Of course, I love that, you know, but it's so interesting, the impact. So I don't know if we've gotten to everything in the show, but again, I hope you've gotten a little tease that you'll make your way here over the next 2 years to, or sooner, you know, to experience it. And I would like to make a plea. We turned 25 years old. We turned 25 years old this Thanksgiving. And we were in such good shape at the end of last year. But because we earned 2.5 times the national average of earned income through the beauty of the campus and the rentals for weddings and corporate events, all of that was pretty much canceled. We're now doing very small, beautiful weddings, but we don't have that income anymore. So if you have extra shekels, please think of us. I know there's so much worthwhile projects and people and organizations to support, but we really do need help. And please become a member if you're not, or please renew. Please bring people you love here. And for the press, I'm ready to take any question you have. And I just want to really say a big thank you to our installation crew who really made everything I had in my head come to perfection true. We haven't lit it yet, and it will really pop when we do. So we hope to see you very, very soon. Any questions have come in?
We don't have a ton of questions. A lot of folks are inspired by the exhibition, fascinating. Someone is sharing a story that they have lost their son, and part of his illness was due to poor sleep in life.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, I am so sorry to hear that.
Here's a question. Rebecca, what have you learned about sleep while preparing this exhibition, and has that changed your own sleep practices?
Yeah, oh, that's a great question. Yeah, it has. And I'm still trying to implement what I know is right. I often fall asleep when I'm watching television, and then I don't wake up, and all night long, you know, the light gets brighter and dimmer and brighter and dimmer from depending on the image on the screen. And I know that's not good. And I have kept my cell phone close to me because for years I was worried about my dad, you know, and so it's kind of a habit I've never lost, even though he's gone on, right? But the blue light of the charger is not good because it actually, that kind of electronic light keeps you from making melatonin at night. That's what they have found from the studies. So I'm trying to be more disciplined. And if I wake up, I'll try to, remember, like go immediately and cut it off and experience that calm. And there's no question, the few times I've ever slept at a friend's house who don't have TV, I notice I wake up feeling so good, so I should learn just from that. So there's that. I've always gotten inspiration from sleeping and ideas. And you're going to, the last thing after we've asked some questions, you're going to see this film that our Arna Vadenas put together with the interview with George Church, that scientist who, when he's trying to figure out the solution to a scientific or medical problem or invention, that he will consciously fall into sleep and wake up with a piece of the idea. And then our own, if please everybody look at the YouTube channel for Landis, Landis, Expandis, YouTube, and look up Back the Hail Up, a great thing in COVID right now. But his sleep song, he was very kind to let us have that. And he speaks very brilliantly on how he is both a painter and a composer and a performer and a lyricist, and how that comes to him when he's stuck. And I think that we can keep a journal next to us, because sometimes if you don't write down those great ideas you get, either in the shower, but particularly from sleep, often they disappear. So it's good to have a pen and pencil near the bedstand. I do. I'm just more thankful and less resentful for sleep. I always thought just think how much more I could do if I didn't have to sleep. Now I realize I've made sleep my friend, and I hope you will too.
I love that, Rebecca. We have another question, a really good question. Have you ever had a dream that was a premonition? I know that you have.
Yes. Yeah, I did. I this is a little TMI probably, but I'm known for that, right? So before I went to study with Marcel Marceau in Paris, and I was living with my parents, obviously, and I had such a realistic dream that I gave birth to painlessly to a beautiful dark curly haired baby girl. And in the dream, my parents were driving me to Sinai Hospital. And in the dream was a roadblock. And they turned to me and they said, not in any bad way, like, well, who's the father? And I didn't know in the dream, and then I could feel her being born. So flash forward a few years, I'm in Paris. My first husband was the star ballet dancer of the Paris Opera. He was 27, I was 17. And by the time I'm 18 and a half, it's 4th of July and I'm ready to deliver. I come back to this country with him to have our baby in America. And I didn't know, they said, oh, you're so young. And at that time I was so little, they said, please don't try to do natural childbirth. I said, fine, put me out. I had I'm going to be, granola here and, be, tough it out. And so I actually was very overdue. And it was funny because I wanted to go watch the Columbia fireworks. I was that young, thinking, oh, do I have to go to the hospital, And so I called the doctor because I got blissed out. I had had a lot of previous back labor, but I really just got blissed out. I thought, well, maybe I should get to the hospital. And he's there with his tennis sweatband on, it was 4th of July, and he's really upset on my first child that I got him off the courts. And I said, well, just check me out. I'm in not even, the main place to deliver. And he didn't get out of his tennis outfit. He said, keep your top on, because he thought it would be hours before I went. He slipped on a glove and he went to examine me and he screamed, oh my God, the head is crowned. And I had one horrible pain and she was totally born. And she had this dark hair, but on the way there, it wasn't my parents who drove me. It was my first husband, her biological father. And what was interesting was there was a roadblock exactly right on Hillside and what with Green Spring Avenue that had not been there before. So it was very, the elements of it were so freakily, and plus the fact that she was born so relatively easily, like, you know, big time. I got to the hospital at 10 minutes of 6. She was totally born by 6:12, but there was no, you know, episiotomy or anything. It was just like boom, you know. And I remember I asked for a shrimp salad sandwich and chocolate milk from the ordeal. So that's it. TMI. Other times I have seen, when all my shows, I really pray, like, what is the most meaningful theme I can pick out, and that will be of most use to the people coming in the door and most in tune with the times. Because, you know, we still have our Secret Life of Earth up. I mean, because look at what climate change is doing. If we didn't have so many other competing stories, just the fires in Brazil and in Australia and in California and in Oregon, the 120 degrees in downtown LA, you know, we would be so focused on, as we need to be as well, on climate change. And our Secret Life of Earth show will now continue up through January and maybe even longer. But we didn't really have money to switch out. And we thought, God, this beautiful show that no one's seen for the last 6 months. And we have our Esther and the Dream of One Loving Human Family. So why am I bringing all these up? Again, our relationship, what it is to be a human being with each other. So we look at what happened in Rwanda between the Hutus and the Tutsis. We look at what happened in the Holocaust and what we did to Native Americans. People, the relationship of human beings to other human beings. And there is a quote in the Esther show that really could apply here. And that is, evil begins when you begin to treat people as things. So even in the workplace, you know, the consciousness has to be about quality of living for everyone. And then I think people do their best work. It's not just a job, but that their well-being is also heavily into the equation as well. And then the Earth Show, our relationship to nature and what we've done, what our part in that has been. So I just want to thank everybody who's been our fans. If you haven't put us in your will, live long, sleep well. But frankly, if it was not for 5 legacy gifts of people who loved us and put us in their wills, we wouldn't have the American Visionary Art Museum today, because of John Bourne from Santa Fe, who only came here 3 times. That unrestricted gift he put in of 1.66 million in his will to us has made all the difference. So, you know, thank you. And you could, you know, give some 5,000 or less. Right now, I'm putting together a book of all the quotes we've ever used in 40 different kinds of exhibitions over the past 25 years. And we will give that to people who pledge to give us, I mean, tell the truth, you know, a minimum of $5,000 or more in their will. And that will go to them as a huge thank you, because again, the legacy gifts, as well as the ongoing gifts, have really, really kept us alive. So to our members, thank you. Bring people you love, stay well. I know it's been a tough year for many of you. Don't feel any pressure to give a monetary gift. Give us the love gift, and sleep, sweet dreams to everybody out there. Any more questions?
Not too many questions coming in. We just want to thank everybody for making their donations and even signing up to be a member today. That's amazing. Help support us in our new exhibition going up. And I think, Rebecca, we're ready to show our video. Do you have any introductions for the video?
No, the video says it all. Let's start running it. I'm going to put my mask on and watch with Helen right now on the other side of her long stick.
And do you want to sit down and I'll plug you?
Oh, right.
Creative geniuses have long credited that magic moment between wakefulness and sleep to be their own secret portal through which they receive their very best and most inspired ideas. Among the historic famous who likewise mined sleep for that pure creative gold are Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein, inventors Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison, artist Salvador Dali and the great Leonardo da Vinci, Albert Einstein, composer Beethoven, Abe Lincoln, Napoleon, and Churchill, just to name but a few. Here we present the video testimony of famed research scientist Dr. George Church, aka the father of synthetic biology. Church credits many of his biggest breakthroughs to his personal experience of narcolepsy, a disorder of involuntary and frequent slippage into sleep during normal waking hours.
I wake up quite refreshed, almost always, even if it's in the middle of the day and it only lasts a few seconds. I feel very refreshed at the end. And very often a problem will put me to sleep and a solution will wake me up. It's very interesting. I mean, it's very, you know it if you feel it. I mean, it's just very clear that I'm getting tired because I can't solve the problem. Some circuit is in my head is just saying, maybe there's a solution out here. I mean, there isn't always there, but I think my brain just says, let's try it. And then boom, I'm asleep. And sometimes it's an awkward time. You know, I'm not in complete control over it, but other times it's just to welcome if there's a solution. The solutions are very often very unreasonable, right? But with time, you can see how to link it back to reality.
We conclude our exploration of sleep as portal to muse by our interview with Baltimore's own award-winning composer, painter, and performance artist, Landis Expandis. Landis explains just how consciously he uses sleep to gain artistic inspiration transcendent of his waking mind.
When I do a painting, sometimes if I'm not feeling very creative, I might just make a couple marks on the painting, you know, some grays, some dark colors, some light color, and then just, you know, lean it up against the wall and go to sleep, you know, if it's bedtime. When I wake up, I'll have some ideas that I hadn't thought about. The library has opened up. It has given me different ideas, you know, cross-referenced, combined them, given me a list, you know, in scenarios that have played out through my dream. I wake up and I look at that canvas and I see it in a different light. I'll add some color, things that I may not have thought about when I was originally putting it together. And there you have it. 2 different days worth of ideas combined together with a nice sleep session in between. I do the same with music. Works out nicely. Here's a video that I put together about a sleep schedule that during quarantine times, many people have their sleep schedule is a little different than it usually is when we have a schedule of going to work and coming home. Hope you enjoy it.
Well, is it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or what? Sleep schedules all jacked up. Wine glass sitting next to my coffee cup because the sleep schedules all jacked up. I know it's afternoon, but I don't know what day. Sleep schedules all jacked up. I got nothing planned for tomorrow anyway. Sleep schedule. I've been steady working on beats and tracks, and I haven't eaten up all of the snacks. And if I don't breathe and stop, I'll be up till 7 o'clock. How will I adjust when I get out. That's what getting up in the morning's about. And those shoes are on my feet. It's been a month since I've been to the street. Is it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or what? Cause sleep schedule's all jacked up. My wine glass sitting next to my coffee cup, cause sleep schedule's all jacked up. I know it's afternoon, but I don't know what day. Sleep schedule's all jacked up. I got nothing planned for tomorrow anyway. Sleep schedule. I miss the sun and its effects. When each day blends into the next, I can see the sun. Here comes the light. But is it early morning or night? Is it Monday down in the dumps? Or is it Wednesday over the humps? If it's Friday, that's for real. But I don't know how I'm supposed to feel. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, what? Sleep schedule's all jacked up. My wine glass is sitting next to my coffee cup, cause sleep schedule's all jacked up. It's afternoon, but I don't know what day. Sleep schedule's all jacked up. I got nothing planned for tomorrow anyway. Come on, sleep schedule's all jacked up.
Landis, who did the All Jacked Up Sleep Schedule song, is doing all the parts. He's very careful about COVID, and that's him playing everything, his costumes. So Landis Expandis, YouTube. And again, if you are interested in becoming a legacy donor, again, live long and prosper, but please contact Valerie, V-A-L-E-R-I-E, at avam.org, or Melissa at avam.org, and we'll get out some forms to you to make it easier. But again, keep us in your heart at the very least. And thank you. May you all have much better sleep.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, and everyone. Thank you so much for attending. The Science and Mystery of Sleep opens this Saturday to the public. We're open from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can reserve your time ticket by going to our website to make sure that we can take you in. So thank you everyone so much, and we hope to see you in person real soon.